Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to Stomp Out the Stigma, sponsored by SCOPE and our SCOPE coordinator over here, Sam Winters.
Hello, hello.
How you doing, Sam?
Doing great.
All right, so we've got a virtual 5K that's underway right now.
Yes, sir.
How's that coming along? You got who's the fastest at the moment?
Let's see who's the fastest. Let's see here. Let's check our things. We've got quite a few people who've already implemented their times this morning. So far, we have the fastest as Hannah Rodriguez is currently the fastest, 32 minutes for her 5K.
Wow, Hannah Rodriguez. Okay, folks, that's the time you're going to have to beat if you're going out there. So tell us a little bit about what this virtual 5K is about and how that works.
Yeah, so this is a virtual 5K and fun run. So it's all about raising awareness around mental health. So what we elected to do, actually last year we started this. This is a virtual 5K for mental health. We implemented this because of COVID. We weren't actually to host a full fun run. So how it works is you sign up online. You can go to tinyurl.com/scope5k. You register, you sign up. We'll actually email you a little confirmation, and then we'll mail you a race kit. And then you just hop out there, you do your run, and then there's a little results tab on the webpage. You just click that and upload your time. You also can put up photos and put up a picture of you running the race, and we'll actually send you a little extra free prize if you do that. So
give us some little promotional items.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you get these cool T-shirts.
Look at these.
Let's take this off here so we can see what we're doing here. All right, I'm going to. Oh boy, it's been a while. But yeah, if you look at these T-shirts here, we got.
Yeah, we got a nice little back on them.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
So if you sign up, and you can still sign up right now to do that.
Yeah. Actually, the registration is open until midnight tonight, so you have until midnight to sign up and input your race times.
Okay, that's fantastic. And you get again, it's good for the mental health to get out there. We're trying to do the best we can with COVID and the restrictions, not to get a big what do they call those things? A spreader event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We don't want a spreader event. We want a running event. That's what we're looking for.
Exactly. We want to raise awareness about mental health, not necessarily raise COVID numbers. So.
Okay. And we're waiting for our guests. We're going to have Teresa Capel. Did I say that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Teresa Capel is going to be joining us from New Mexico Tech, Disability Services there, just as soon as she gets here from work. I understand she's coming over.
Yeah.
And then Sam and I, we went to a Socorro County Health Community Forum. Was that correct?
Yeah. Presbyterian Hospital does a community health forum every couple of years,
right.
Where they'll actually take a look at the different health concerns for our community, and they'll actually kind of generate a health assessment and a health plan for things that they're going to target for the next upcoming years.
Yeah, exactly. And at this particular event, we were going over 2019 data.
Yes, sir.
So we still haven't had our 2020 data, and boy, that was a rough year psychologically speaking.
Oh yeah, definitely. We saw a lot of the numbers are still being finalized, but we definitely know we saw a huge increase in mental health concerns and a huge increase in substance misuse as well.
Wow.
So definitely
COVID.
some concerns. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was what was really alarming to me, was to see that we're number 8 in 33 counties for suicides here in Socorro County.
Yeah. Our rates are really pretty bad, unfortunately. And the scary part is too, everybody thinks it's just a youth concern, which, don't get me wrong, it definitely affects youth. We have some of the highest rates of youth suicide, but it also affects our middle-aged generations as well. The highest rates of suicide are actually in middle-aged men.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's interesting because when I was a volunteer firefighter in 2014 and 2015 out in Catron County, I was surprised that there was actually efforts even among volunteer first responders to try to provide mental health services and things like that. And I think mental health is one of those things that we don't really think about. We just assume as long as you're walking around, you're okay, or you should be okay, or that mental health is just something that naturally happens, and we just expect it to be there. And we don't really realize it's something that we have to work at. That there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of stress in our lives, things that we might not even take as stress and trauma that can really alter our lives, our behaviors, our attitudes, our perceptions to things. And, that's why we're trying to stomp out the stigma, because when we say mental health, we really want people to think about it. And it's not just individuals, it's our community too, is what Sam just said. Looking at this county assessment, we were asked specific questions about what makes a healthy community, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you hit the nail on the head too. There's so many different factors that affect your mental health. You can look at somebody and you'll never know that they're having a problem. You can really keep it hidden. And then there's so many underlying factors too. You have the mental health concerns as far as like depression and things like that that can impact it. But also you have what's called these adverse childhood experiences, and that can really play a part. And so if you do have some of those adverse childhood experiences, which we actually have some of the highest rates of that in Socorro County,
Ouch.
that impacts you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, those early imprints, those dents. I mean, we were just talking about that last night in our Christmas show. They can make a real difference on how you view love, how you view hate, how you view relationships, and they happen at a really, really early age. And the other thing about mental health is not only like natural trauma that we talk about here, but also the fact that when we look at the blood sugar chemistry in our chemistry, we saw in that meeting that our diabetes rates are going up, and that nutrition and our ability. I mean, when you look at the 4 major veins that bring oxygen into the brain, how important oxygen and good nutrition is, to mental health. That we have another issue there, which is not only how are we treated in childhood, but how well do we feed our brain and take care of ourselves. And that's some of the stuff we talked about too, with the issues with double your food bucks out there and getting access and not being what they're calling today a food island. Oh, there's our guest.
I think I just saw our guest pull up.
All right, folks. Well, you are listening to Rio Grande Valley Radio. I'm joined here in the studio with Sam Winter, and we just had our new guest, Teresa Capel, join us. So we're going to be putting her in the hot seat here in just a moment. Oh, and here she comes, bravely marching on over. All right, and then you've got your mic over there, Sam.
Yes.
Let's get Sam on there. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and let's go back over here, and I'm going to introduce our guest here and put her name up there. All right, so now we're going to switch the conversation. We talked a little bit about mental health. We were talking about early age trauma, that suicide didn't just affect kids, it affects adults. And right now, the main group right now they're talking about is middle-aged men. And we talked a little bit about nutrition and diet there. But that's what the SCOPE-Stomp Out the Stigma is all about. We really need to, like Sam said, with people hiding their conditions, we really need them to be more open about it, because we can't heal until we name it, identify it, and be open about it. Are some of the key psychological things in there to dealing with it. And we have to be comfortable in our families and in our communities to work on ourselves,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so I'm gonna ask Teresa now. So Teresa, I'm gonna turn it over here to Sam in just a second, but you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you do there with New Mexico Tech Disability Services, and thank you for coming in.
Of course, thank you. Thank you for having me today. So my name is Teresa Capel, and I am the Director for Disability Services at New Mexico Tech. I'm also the Director for the Alcohol Safety Awareness Program at New Mexico Tech. So today what I would really like to talk about a little bit is just how COVID mental health has really impacted our students. A lot of isolation, solitude has affected our kids a lot. The numbers of students registering with disability services has increased over the last 3 years, which is great because according to the Educational Department of the U.S. Educational Department, about 19% of college students actually have disabilities. And up until 2019, we had about 10% who were registered with our office. And in the past year, we've actually gotten up to about almost 14%. So, which is very helpful. And as Reese was saying a little while ago, we have to feel safe and comfortable in being able to come out and ask for help and ask for assistance. So, and that's how I approach our students with disabilities at New Mexico Tech is we're here to help. That is what our job is. Reduce those barriers that are impacting their education, finding access for their education. Disability services isn't about success, but we are about access.
Access to solutions and tools.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Teresa, for coming in. We really greatly appreciate it. So, as we're talking about this Stomp Out the Stigma and some of the issues associated with mental health, I heard you say that the usage of the disability services is definitely increased. I guess, do you feel that some of the students feel more comfortable reaching out for help, or is there still kind of that barrier of access?
It varies. So students generally over the last 5 years, I see a lot of more openness about their mental health issues, being able to talk to each other about it. There's still a little bit of stigma in communities, talking to family and parents a little bit more. Our counseling center is very full right now, so students are reaching out for help through them also. The barriers are still there, just not quite as much as they used to be, I think. But you know, incrementally, we are reducing them.
Oh, perfect. That's always good to hear, you know. And so I know finals is going on right now, too. So I know mental health is definitely kind of on the forefront of everybody's mind for these poor students right now. You know, I know when I was going through school, finals was probably the worst time for everyone. So have you seen, I guess, what kind of outreach are you guys doing, you know, for finals as far as like stress reduction, things like that? Do the students have any sort of you know, any sort of mindfulness techniques or anything that they can do, or any sort of like stress relieving methods for finals?
So there's a couple different things that have been offered at New Mexico Tech. So Student Affairs is open from 8 a.m. until 6 or 7 p.m. every day. So they have coloring, they have people to talk to, they have just different things, you know, just come and have lunch with them. Sit down and relax there. The counseling center, of course, is open. We were going to try to do goat yoga on campus, but that unfortunately did not happen, which I thought was just fabulous. But
What is goat yoga?
Oh, goat yoga is wonderful. It's yoga, but with baby goats. There's nothing more like stress relieving than watching baby goats jump around. Let me tell
I
you.
have to say, I love their bleeding. That would.
I know exactly.
absolutely. Last evening we had our annual, or actually semi-annual, what is it called? I don't know. It's midnight breakfast. That is what it's called.
Ah, there you go. For all those late night studying.
Yeah. You out there.
Yeah.
Midnight breakfast. Very difficult words today. So, you know, the students are very stressed because of finals, but we also proctor a lot of the finals. So we have been working very hard in our office to make sure our students have access to their finals. So my brain is a little bit fried. So midnight breakfast is something that we do every semester. So we offer pancakes and bacon and this camaraderie the day before finals begin. So last night from 11 to 1 we had midnight breakfast, which was put on with Student Life and Chartwell's both.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I know all those students, you know, studying late night and doing all-nighters, which students who are listening, do not stay up all night and study. Studies have shown that's not very good. I know I did it, but don't do it. But if you do, go join the midnight breakfast and take a little study break.
Well, the best way to study for your exams is that you take 2 or 3 days before the exam and you work on it for a couple hours at a time, take a break in between, make sure that you eat well. You get 8+ hours of sleep the night before your exam.
Well, then I hate to be the bad sayer here, but you too, just like sports, you got to watch the carbohydrate and the protein level and those sugars. You know, orange juice is a good sugar and bad sugars because the brain runs on glucose and oxygen. So, you know, remember those two things. You want a high performance, watch your glucose and make sure you've got some good exercise before to get that blood flowing into your brain.
Yeah, we'll put a little plug in there. If you're doing exercise, go do a Stomp Out the Stigma 5K.
Hey.
And, you know, prep for finals with the Stomp Out the Stigma 5K.
Hey, wow, that's what we're doing now.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, thanks for tying that in. That's
Good little plug there.
all right, Sam.
Well, and you know, and we have some students who are probably getting close to being finished with their first final. So after the final, they're going to need to release some excess stress and energy. So they absolutely should
There
go
we go.
online and register for the 5K if they haven't done so already.
You get a keep cool T-shirt and exercise. What
Exactly.
Can you say?
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is one thing also that I see at New Mexico Tech. The use of our gym and our facilities, yoga classes, stretch and relaxation, the spin classes, you know, they're very full and students are utilizing them. So, you know, and
perfect.
we all know that science tells us that exercise is very good for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Very much
I
so.
remember when I read in high school back then that exercising at youth age, high school, early college, can slow your rate of decay in old age by 10 to 15%. I was like, hey, that's a good motivation.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Slow that curve down.
Absolutely. And eat those greens.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, and try not to drink quite so much coffee. You know, have some orange juice, have some apple juice, a couple glasses of water before you go to your exam so that, you know, you're very hydrated.
Yeah, that's good advice, I think, for everybody, too. Drink that water during the day. I know that's one of the hardest parts for everybody is to get that water in. And it's hard, but definitely well needed.
Yeah, your body runs on it. Your body runs on it. And then you can do little things like protein snacks like peanuts or cashews or almonds. You know, good source of protein for your brain and things when you're working.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the hard part is convincing people that, your test and your exam is just like preparing for an athletic event.
Yep.
You prepare your muscles in your body for an event, but when you go for an exam, you're not just studying and trying to remember facts. You've got to remember that your brain actually needs a lot of intention as far as its fuel and its exercise. And, they found in studies before with kids, the top performers, music is involved, exercise is involved. All these things help your brain perform at a higher function. And so sometimes people get frustrated with themselves education. It's like, well, are you taking care of your brain? Because it needs as much as your big old biceps.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's absolutely true. And then if you look at the whole picture, if you're not taking care of yourself from your emotional, mental state to your physical well-being, you're not going to be performing to your peak. So all that self-care, doing some mindfulness in the afternoons or in the middle of your exam. If you take 30 seconds to take 10 deep breaths, and clear your brain and be very mindful about focusing on your exam, it can be very helpful.
Boy, that's something I've had a hard time with, because they talk about taking 10 deep breaths. And they did a study on FAA aeronautics, and because they trained pilots in all this training, and they couldn't figure out why they still make mistakes and crash. Mm-hmm. And the same thing is true in police and things and other people that work in high stress situations. They said, even if you can only do 4-second breaths, do a 4-second breath, because what happens, like me, when I stop breathing, which I do quite frequently, I go down into my primitive brain. Your higher functions of your brain actually shut off when you hyperventilate, when you get that, and you're not taking those deep breaths. So, great advice there, Teresa. Take that 10-second breath. If you're in such a stressful situation, try to take that good 4-second breath to bring up your higher functions.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you're even not in a stressful situation, just getting into patterns of doing that periodically, really, it does. It increases your brain function. It gets that oxygen back into your body. It really makes a huge difference. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa Begay, who is our director for physical education, she actually put together a very nice 4-minute tactical breathing. And I think that's exactly what Reese is talking about, because it's what Navy SEALs use.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if Navy SEALs going to use it, I think that testing situations would be a great time to be using it.
Definitely.
So if anybody listening is interested in that, Melissa is happy to share. So you can contact me and I can share it with you. So
yeah,
perfect.
And you even mentioned mindfulness. The breathing, the mindfulness, the meditation. These are all skills that we can mental up ourselves to be sharper mentally, and they're real important. That, like we said earlier, it doesn't just happen. It takes focus and it takes awareness.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I just want to throw another plug in there too, as we're talking about mindfulness, not just for the students, but other community members as well. There are so many community resources here in Socorro County for people who want to start getting into mindfulness, who want to get some of those breathing exercises. Contact Melissa, contact Teresa, definitely check out the Scope Health Council. We've got all sorts of mindfulness exercises. We worked with Maureen Wilkes. She's a wonderful community member here who teaches mindfulness. There are tons of resources here in Socorro County for not just students, but community members as well.
Yes. In fact, Maureen is going to be teaching a class at New Mexico Tech in the spring.
There you go.
And it is all about mindfulness and how we struggle to be mindful. So it's going to be a great class, and it's very inexpensive. It's community ed class. So look at the New Mexico Tech calendar.
Yeah, so sign up today for that class.
Yeah, and like our Stomp Out the Stigma event, I like the fact that you said struggle, because we take it for granted that we're just there, and we're really not. I mean, if we realize how much we're just operating instinctually on autopilot, and we're really not thinking about our choices in what we do and how we interact, the mindfulness is really important to become. It helps us exercise our will more, because we're more conscious of where we are and what we're trying to do, and it's
Yeah, and it definitely starts some good patterns, not just for New Mexico Tech students, but even in some of the younger generations, getting it started in elementary school, middle school. It starts really reducing some of those barriers, being able to be aware of your mental health state, being able to be aware of what's going on around you, and then how to address that and how to kind of move forward from that.
Right. And back to the middle-aged people we talked about earlier, but even the older people, you found yourself in a way, you get in a pattern and you don't even know you're in it. And sometimes you really have to take that quiet time to meditate, the deep breathing, again, activate that higher mental function. Einstein is often quoted as the thinking that got us into the problem won't get us out of it.
Very true.
So the habits that got us into it, sometimes we need to stop. And that's why Stomp Out the Stigma is so important, because as Teresa said, it's a struggle. It's something we have to work on to help achieve. That's the discipline, part of things. And it's really good that we do that. See, I haven't been breathing enough and I'm losing my higher function.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's Stomp Out the Stigma, that it's something that we can work on. And not only kids, but adults can benefit, because we're, as adults, taking care of kids, worrying about a job. We've got all these stresses on us. And sometimes we may be more reactionary than thoughtful, than willful in what we're doing. And that can lead to a lot of problems when we're more reactionary than well thought out. And always a famous quote of mine was, wisdom does not do desperate things.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. And, as we're talking about that too, and stress relief, the breathing is definitely very, very important. I know we've talked about the students being in finals, and Teresa, I know that you lead the New Mexico Tech ASAP program, the Alcohol Safety Awareness Program. A lot of people too associate mental health with some of those substance misuse problems as kind of a stress relief problem. I guess, is there any sort of programming or anything that you guys are looking at, working with towards kind of substance prevention in regards to finals and things like that?
Not directly with finals this semester. Unfortunately, with COVID, we've been so inundated that a lot of our programming hasn't been as implemented as it should be right at this point in time. We do try to show students the different options for coping mechanisms, because a lot of students see alcohol as a coping mechanism. They're like, oh, I have a really stressful day, so I'm going to go home and have a beer. Well, instead of going home and having a beer, let's go home and go for a walk with your best friend. Talk to somebody. Take 20 minutes to write down 3 things that you're grateful for the day. All of these other things that aren't going to impede your mental health and your mental cognition. Alcohol slows things down. It's a depressant. It does not help with your brain activity.
Yeah, it doesn't help with that higher functioning that we're talking about, huh?
Well, and then it's interesting, because then instead of having the tools inside you, you become dependent on something external to you that you always have to have. And while some people may just be fine with it, you never know if you're one of those personality types that just could find yourself a little overly addicted, and it becomes too much of a solution, and that leads into future problems. And that's the danger. Some people get away with it I shouldn't say just fine, but some people are more prone to addiction than others.
Right.
And you don't know when you're young what path you're starting to. And like I says, learning, like Teresa says, to have those tools that you can go walk with a friend, things that you have control over, that you don't require something external, will be there for you for a long time.
And anytime that you're working with intrinsic health and you can work on it yourself, it's going to benefit you in the long run way better than trying to rely on external forces. Because if you rely on everybody else to fix your problems, or everybody else to help you through everything, that's not going to be a long-term solution. Finding those skills that work for you, because every one of us have different skills that work for us,
Right.
which is so great, because we're all individuals and we all have different things. And as college students, because that's what I work with every day, is my lovely college students, they're still trying to figure out what their coping mechanisms are. So, there's a lot of experimenting out there. Some of it's drugs, some of it's alcohol, some of it's meditation, some of it's exercise. Some of it is learning, writing is great for some people, journaling, doing all of those kind of things. Gardening, like at the community garden, those are such great things that you can do that involve you making those choices, and not somebody else or something else, like a bottle of beer or whatever it is, saying, oh, I can help you. You can help yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's very important too, some of that self-reliant aspect too. It helps build you up both mentally and in a way physically, that you aren't reliant on someone else. You are in charge of your own being, and you can help yourself. You can take those steps. You can, journal. You can do those breathing exercises. You can go for a walk. And there's so many good aspects that you can do to really reduce that stress.
And the 5K run is part of it. And
Definitely.
I was amazed in the military, you know, because coming in the military as a young man, you think, oh, I got to have a gym, I got to have weights, I got to have all this stuff. The military got me in shape with nothing but the earth and a drill sergeant. And boy, did I do a lot of push-ups and sit-ups and a whole bunch of other things that didn't really require a gym. But that's the hard part, is like she said, we start thinking outside of ourselves and not thinking inside of ourselves. And that really leads to a dependency in our life, because then we develop this pattern of looking externally instead of looking internally. And we really have all the resources within ourselves. And getting to know yourself is really important. You know, there's something called Myers-Briggs 16 types that's out there. That's a really good way. But exploring yourself, how do you read? How do you learn? You know, who you are. You know, there's a lot of good tools, whether it's the color of your parachute's another one, but a lot of things that you can do to figure out who you are, because you're not like everybody else, and we're all pretty unique.
Yeah, agreed.
And that is the awesome part. And
Yes, it
you know,
is.
and one of the ways to help you learn about yourself so that you do have those internal coping mechanisms is reaching out for help. You know, go to a counselor, go to therapy, ask your parents how they have worked through some of the things that have happened in their lives, because a lot of things are very genetic, especially mental health issues. You know?
Yeah.
So very genetic. If you actually communicate with other people who are going through the same things, they can help you understand. And maybe their coping mechanism isn't going to be what helps you in the long run, but it might be a good place to start.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'll put in a little plug. We do have some resource guides as well on the SCOPE website. Go to scopehealthcouncil.com. There's all sorts of helpful resources here in Socorro County. And I guess, Teresa, you know, you talked about signing up for counseling. Where would students go if they wanted to kind of get in with the counseling center or get into your office? How would they sign up for that?
So for the Counseling Center, if you go to the New Mexico Tech website and you put in Counseling Center, they have a wonderful website. It has a lot of resources on it also. There's some great meditation and yoga videos on there. And if you scroll all the way towards the bottom, there's an intake form. If you complete that, once you submit that, the Counseling Center will reach out to you within 48 hours and get you set up for an appointment. Generally, the appointments are set up within a week and a half. Sometimes during the semester, during finals, it's a little bit longer than that because they are very, very busy.
Oh, busy during finals? No.
So, and to register with my office if you have a disability or if you're running into barriers and you're not sure what's happening, you're more than welcome to stop by our office at any time. Currently located in the basement of Brown Hall, but we will be moving to Fidel Center, second floor, starting January 10th. So look for us there. You can also go to our website, and our website, just type in disability at the New Mexico Tech website, and there's a great little video where you get to hear me talk. And there's all the information you need there as far as what documentation you may need to look for in different resources that are available.
Awesome. Perfect. So there's definitely ways that students can reach out and get help, definitely. And, you know, as you can hear from this interview and stuff, Teresa is wonderful to talk to. So I highly recommend going in and signing up and talking to some of that staff if you need some help or just want to chit chat. You know, she's more than willing to give you a little listen. I guess, Teresa, is there any other things that you would like to pitch to students and things that they should be aware of coming up? I know that the semester is coming to a close here pretty soon after finals, but anything that they should think about, you know, going home for the holidays or anything like that?
Going home for the holidays, if you're not vaccinated, please think about getting vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, also remember you have to be getting tested while you are gone. So Stephanie Plant sent out a great email that had all the information for getting tested. When you come back, we may be getting tested again. We're not sure. We haven't quite figured that part out yet. Be safe, you know, take a break, be kind to yourself. You know, put a little note on your mirror every morning that says that you are wonderful. I don't care what it's, you know, because sometimes we just need that little reminder.
Those little messages are really nice. I've started doing that, putting that on the little mirror. There's a nice little pick-me-up periodically to see that.
They are. I put one on my steering wheel because usually when you get home from work at the end of the night, you're not feeling so good, but you want to make sure you feel really good in the morning. So I put something really nice and happy on there. So, but yeah, just take care of each other, be kind to each other, you know, and be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The one thing that I've noticed, because I have friends in the biology department there at New Mexico Tech, is that the tech is also really supportive of therapeutic animals. I noticed that there's quite a few kids with different therapeutic animals. Do you guys help set that up with their therapeutic animals, or?
We do. So if students have service animals, which are covered by the American Disabilities Act, so service animals are different than what emotional support animals are.
Okay.
So service animals are allowed in classrooms, in any place that the public is allowed. Service animals are allowed. Service animals have to be trained for a specific disability. Emotional support animals, those are animals that give emotional support. I mean, it exactly explains what they do. Those animals are approved for housing, not for campus-wide.
Ah, that's a good distinction. Yeah.
Because emotional support animals are actually covered by the Fair Housing Act and by the Air Carriers Act. Those are the only two places that the law actually covers them. So, but yes, we do have a lot of wonderful students with service animals. We have a couple in the biology department. We have a couple in the chemistry department right now. And it's great when you have service animals, but if you have service animals, you do not have to register with my office, but it's a great idea because I can help you work through all of the little intricacies of getting, the pads for your puppy dog, for your chemistry labs, and different things that you need. For emotional support animals, you have to come through my office, so make sure you reach out. Pets are not allowed on campus.
Well, that's 3 distinctions.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, but great question, Reese. So,
Okay.
And emotional support animals are really one of those things that they are approved for psychological disabilities. So mental health. If you have a diagnosis of PTSD, a lot of times an emotional support animal can really benefit you. Real high social anxiety emotional support animals can also benefit. So.
Yeah, definitely. And, and those emotional support animals, they do sometimes get a bad rap because unfortunately we do have some people out there who, don't necessarily feel that they're very beneficial, but there are quite a few students and community members who generally benefit from those emotional support animals.
Well, it's fascinating because my good friend Kenny Gonzalez, he had a support animal, a German Shepherd from Paws. I know others. There's also a lot of efforts going on with equestrian therapy and horse therapy.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Up in Colorado and different places, and the interaction between you and another animal is real important. So it's not just something for kids; it's something for really tough sniper Marines, and Navy SEALs and people like that. Because we have to admit, when we're in traumatic situations, that they can impact us, and we need help. And sometimes the animal, the horse or the dog or the goat.
Yeah.
In the case of goat yoga, can really make a difference in shifting our center psychologically and helping us feel calm. Because a lot of times people have been very threatened by humans or been in very strong conflicts with humans, and the animal is one of those ways to bridge and create a relationship that isn't human, where there may be an injury that makes that very traumatic.
Yeah, exactly. And then Teresa, I believe even New Mexico Tech a few years ago did a program with the shelter where you got to go and play with puppies for a little while to get some puppy play time, and definitely as a great stress reliever.
Absolutely. So, and I know that the sorority was looking into doing that for this finals section, but it didn't quite happen. I'm not sure why, but probably in the spring we will have puppies and kitties again.
There you go.
And kitties, oh my.
And kitties, yes. But horse therapy, it is such a profound thing. My mother-in-law actually she volunteers at a therapy horse farm who does therapy with young adults anywhere between 12 and 30 who are either on the spectrum, have Down syndrome, and all kinds of different things. And it is just wonderful to see the difference between those people as they're getting on those horses and their interaction with the horse versus their interaction with people. It's profound.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it can be something really spectacular to watch happen, because if you're an observant, you can see the psychological change. Yeah. I've seen that with my buddy when he gets around his veteran. There's a psychological change in his whole behavior when he gets around it. It's there if you're observant. But yeah, it is amazing with horses, and something we need to do more of. My good friend Grace, she died at 93. She was in the #2 psychiatric hospital in Colorado at the time, And in the early days of the psychiatric hospital, they actually had their own farm. The patients, took care of the animals, picked up the eggs, did the milking. And she talked about how therapeutic that was just to be part of bringing that food in and having that. And it's something we probably benefit from more, get back to some of those rural roots that we have out here in New Mexico.
Well, and it very much makes you feel like you're contributing to something too. When you have those life forces, that are reliant on you to bring them their food every day, it really makes a difference.
Yeah.
But, as a contributing factor, just gardening, there's been so many studies that have shown the impacts of gardening on your mental health. And so we actually have a couple of community gardens here in Socorro County. I know that there's some work potentially on getting New Mexico Tech a community garden. So there's
How do we get together, folks?
Yeah. So there's definitely several gardening options for people out there to kind of get that dirt under your fingernails, so to speak. Get that rich earth feel to really reduce some of that mental health concerns.
And that brings up a good point that we talked about earlier, that everybody has a different thing that heals them, and the more solutions we have, from gardening to all the different ways that we need to reach out and explore, but to take that time. And as a community, it's good that we have those resources. Let's hope we get them a garden and we get kitties.
Yeah, there we go.
The community garden at New Mexico Tech, hopefully, we're working on the MOU right now.
Oh, cool.
So hopefully that will be something that in the spring we will be able to start implementing. No guarantees, but we are moving forward to that. And we're going to have it very close to campus so that students don't have to walk, all the way down to 8th Street, which is where the Socorro Community Garden is located.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just put a little plug in. We do periodically have mindfulness exercises and mental health resources available at the community garden on 8th Street. So if you are interested in hosting one of those or participating, please reach out to us. Or if you'd like to start a community garden, we are more than happy. The more gardens we get, the better. So if you've got a little bit of land at Socorro and you want to start a community garden, reach out to us and we can definitely work some of that out too for people.
And just in case, because sometimes when we say things, and I do it all the time, when she says AKE, what she's saying is AKE. It's not 8. It's AKE Street is where it's at. So just make sure that AKE is not 8 with ACH, and it's not 8. It's AKEE. AKE, excuse me. Just for our listeners out there.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, the better way to look for it is go to Sophia's Burrito Time, and you'll see it just catty-cornered from the back of the parking lot. So get yourself a burrito and then go dig up some plants while you're there.
You just reached 75% of the community.
Exactly. Go garden and get a burrito. That's mental health relief right there.
That is it. That is. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, folks. Yeah, we're putting this on right now. We've got a virtual 5K race going on, and we want to thank Teresa Capel for joining us here in the studio. She, again, is with the New Mexico Tech Disability Services right here on New Mexico Tech campus. So, like I said, she has a lot of resources for you and a lot of different tactics, from tactical breathing with Melissa Begay to therapeutic animals and service animals and how to navigate that on the campus. And we've got a mindful class coming up with Maureen Wilkins in March, so she's got a lot of resources for you out there. Don't feel alone. Hey, guess what? The biggest thing about Stomp Out the Stigma is you're not the only one having mental trouble. Believe it or not, the rest of us have just as much trouble in different ways, and we've got a variety of it, just as much as we've got a variety of solutions. So be brave, step up, mental up, and stomp out the stigma. We're all trying to be better people, and together we can do that if we accept our humanity, that we have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. And the more we identify our weaknesses, the more we can improve on them and work on them, just like a physical therapist does, to help us have better mental awareness. And
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for having me. I certainly enjoyed this. So
thank you, Teresa, for taking time out of proctoring exams for us and joining us.
So I'm going to go back and finish proctoring some exams for the next 5-6 days.
We'd love to keep you longer, but that sounds like too much fun.
Yeah, teach some breathing exercises to some students during exam times.
All right, folks, you are listening to Rio Grande Valley Radio. We're coming to you on YouTube under Rio Grande Valley Video and on our Facebook page, and we want to really thank Teresa for joining us here in the studio, and we've had a good conversation with her. Hope you've learned some things and given some thought to it. Again, right now till midnight, you can register for the 5K Stomp Out the Stigma run. And so take your time and go do that. As we said, we showed off earlier our cool shirts that we get here.
Yes.
There we go. So, there's a really nice swag, I think is what they call it.
Yeah.
But well, that was really nice to have Teresa in.
Yeah, it was really nice. She's done quite a bit of work for mental health concerns in Socorro County and quite a bit of outreach for those students. She really works hard for the students at New Mexico Tech and really has their back.
That's wonderful. Yeah, because New Mexico Tech is not an easy school to go to.
No, it's not. It's not. I think it's definitely one of the most challenging ones in the country, which is crazy to think about. But they work really hard, and they have a really well renowned for science and technology.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting now that we've got a rugby team, and we've got a male rugby team. We're forming a female rugby team, and Coach Dunbar out there has got a beer garden. That we've got some good physical exercises. Plus, we got a lot of trail groups. I think you remember the Box Canyon group.
Yeah, there's tons of different, as we're talking about mental health, getting outside definitely helps quite a bit with your mental health. And there's so many, environmental aspects to Socorro County. There's so many trails that you can do in Box Canyon. There's tons of rock climbing. There's a new single trek trail going in for mountain biking. So if anybody wants to go do a little bit of mountain biking, go check out Box Canyon.
Wear your helmet.
Yeah, wear your helmet. Protect that mental health.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, we also have like San Lorenzo Canyon, which is also a wonderful outreach opportunity for different exploring and hiking. We even have the Socorro Nature Center. Bosque del Apache has several trails for people to check out. You've got the Magdalena Mountains right there for all sorts of mountain biking and hiking opportunities. So definitely get out there and check out some of those environmental benefits.
Outdoor, yeah, and I think that's really great right now because they're seeing a lot of focus on that within New Mexico, and I really hope we protect our outdoor environment because we've got so much here from little 2-mile trail loops. Right now we're sitting probably less than 5 miles from the Rio Grande and the trail there, and like you said with the Bosque del Apache, little loops, get out there, see the birds, see some wildlife, get some perspective. It really helps you out, especially studying. They talk about too that sometimes if you study too long, you get that narrow focus. You really need to go out and look at the distance and get a far focus to exercise your eyes because your eyes need exercise too.
It's true, and then it gets you that vitamin D too. Vitamin D is so important and so important. And there are supplements that you can take, but it's not quite the same as getting that true vitamin D. Okay,
now. I'm forgetting her name right now, but we earlier when we started this show out, we found out who was the fastest runner. I think it was Natalie. Was it Natalie?
Oh no, let's see. It was Hannah Rodriguez.
You got a better memory than me. Good job.
Let's see where we're sitting. Let me refresh our. I know several people have been also posting their pictures, so check out the Facebook page or the Run Sign Up page.
Okay.
There's definitely tons of people putting up their pictures. It looks like Hannah is still in the lead at the moment.
Okay.
So
she's going to be the one to beat.
Yeah, I think she's going to be the one to beat so far. And then do remember, too, we're also doing this as an awareness run, too. So even if you don't want to, go for time, I will admit I'm not the fastest runner. I think I'm actually a walker / meanderer. So if you don't want to put your times up, too, that's totally fine. You can still sign up and participate, and join the awareness walk. And then just post a photo of yourself just completing the walk and help us spread some of the awareness around mental health.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. The competition is nice, but the real thing is to get out there on this day. We're going to have a high of 69 degrees out there today. A really nice, warm December. Oh, it's December already.
Yeah.
A December day to get out there and just enjoy yourself and get some fresh air and walk with friends and meet members in your community. A lot of us have been pretty isolated for a while indoors, and it's just nice to get out and see other people. And, Socorro is a great place. Whether you go, the historic Valverde Hotel down there at the, you've got the old Baca House, you've got the Garcia Opera House, you've got the old Hamel Museum. You've got some really neat historical buildings and structures. We've got we've got 1935, the CCC, the WPA Corps. We've got, historic sidewalks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so go take a little tour of your old town, Socorro. We have so much good, rich history here, with some of the old buildings, some of the old streets, the old Mission Church. There's so many different beautiful aspects to our community. So if you go, just take a nice walk, enjoy this weather today, and go see some of the rich history that we've got.
Yeah, and then you also have got that irrigation canal, that irrigation ditch, I forget what it's called, that runs through. You got the berm out by. I know. I go walking quite a bit, so there's quite a few nice places to go walk and some great scenery. And boy, you couldn't ask for a nicer day.
Exactly. Yeah.
But while you're out there too, like it says, I think the UV index is something like 6 out of 10. It's pretty mild today. You see a little bit of cloud cover coming in right now. But remember, like when you're out and you're out there, make sure the doctors recommend a minimum of a 3-inch brim. And remember, if you're going up in the mountains, that the UV exposure is actually higher when you go up in elevation. So if you're Water Canyon or you go up to Magdalena Ridge, you go up to these places of elevation, make sure that you have your sunscreen and you have your hat and watch your exposure.
Yeah, exactly. Because even though it's winter, wear that sunscreen. It makes a difference. No skin cancer.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so how are we doing? What do we want? You want to talk about the meeting that we had that was Friday, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Friday. That actually wasn't too long ago. That was yesterday.
That was I'm losing track of time. It's moving quick.
I know, it's hard to believe. But yeah, we had a really good meeting. We were working on that health assessment forum. You guys heard us talk about it a little bit at the beginning, just kind of a little teaser for it. But yeah, so part of our grant funding for the Scope Health Council is we receive funding from Presbyterian Hospital to actually perform some of our community outreach. That's what gives us the ability to do a lot of these programming. And so part of what they do as that is they do a community health assessment every few years. And that really helps them kind of identify not just statistically some areas of concern as far as like, disease numbers, patient numbers, things like that, but also some of our concerns for the community.
Yeah, our concerns. And what are some of our concerns?
We got a lot of concerns, let me tell you.
There actually is a lot of concerns, but we started off with what makes up a healthy community.
Exactly. Yeah, we started out with some really nice discussion about like what we feel a healthy community is, what that would look like, and how we identify that. Because you hear the term health, and we actually went and had a talk with the New Mexico Tech Pre-Med Club a few months ago, and we had an entire discussion on what is health. Health is such a broad topic, and it's such a big word essentially that you kind of forget what all is included in that. Whether it's mental health concerns, whether it's diabetes, which was identified in the forum, if it's substance misuse, liver disease that ties in with that substance misuse, or even just access to care. Does health include lack of transportation? Many of our community members here don't have a private vehicle, So that idea of what health is and how you identify a healthy community is really an interesting idea.
Yeah, it is interesting because, like you said, even with the car and the connecting the places, to realize that health is actually a relationship. It's a relationship between you and your environment, between your home, between where you get care, where you recreate at, and it's a relationship between those things. And the healthier those relationships are, the more you enjoy your outdoor recreation. Take advantage of the things that you have here. Have good peers and friends among the community. Have a place to go for a walk. Can get to a doctor when you have a concern about something. Then that self-care that we talked about in that first session with Teresa Capel, like I said, when we see it mirrored in others, we want to mirror that behavior in ourselves. And when we have those resources, we actually have more opportunity to take care of ourselves. And then when we do that, our relationships, in my theory.
Well, those relationships are important, kind of like you're talking about, having those people that you can connect with and talk to. I know that with COVID, that's been very, very difficult for us, but there's so many options. Even if you can't meet with some of your friends and family, there's tons of options, both online, there's helplines and things like that. But getting back into, community gatherings, is with concerns, as far as like wearing masks and social distancing and things like that. But getting that sense of community back, I think, is very important, and making sure that we have community and community places where we can gather and meet people, I think, is a way to look at a healthy community as well.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because just like we talked about with individuals and taking the time to know who you are as an individual, we talked about our genetics and our family and how do we find out, what are our genetic challenges, what are our challenges within our family, who are we as individuals. And there's a lot of exploration into our history, our family history, our genetic history, and exploration of our own self to know who we are as an individual now. And the same thing applies to community. Sam mentioned the history. We talk about history. What is Socorro? Where did Socorro come from? What's unique about this place? What's this thing called the Box Canyon? Mm-hmm. What is the Rio Grande? What is our history here? What are we made up of? When we look at the fact that we are a crossroads of cultures, from Spanish to Pero to Anglos, all the culture here, that we have a mixture of very rural agricultural community with very high-tech international science labs. Mm-hmm. We've got a very unique history here and a very interesting existence. That part of that exploration of how do I fit in relationship with this? How does this relationship with where I live, the farmers, the scientists, how does that benefit me? So there's as much of a self-exploration that can go on with who am I and who is my family and where have I come from. And those same type of things can happen when we look at our community and ask, what is our community made of, and what are its healthy elements, unhealthy elements, and who are we? Who are we as a people?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's very important too to bring up, as far as the farming culture and the culture of life, that definitely plays a key part in your mental health. We talk about stomping out the stigma, and the whole idea is reducing stigma around talking about your mental health, asking, others if they're okay, being comfortable with expressing that you're not okay.
Right.
And that definitely ties into a cultural aspect. Farmers actually have one of the highest rates of suicide because they aren't willing to say that they're having trouble, that they're having, financial troubles due to farming. I know many of us small farmers, I'm part of the farmers market. Many of us have some struggles, when it comes to farming, not just the day-to-day, the chickens not wanting to lay eggs, but the financial aspects. Small time farming is very challenging nowadays with the implementing of factory farming and things like that is very challenging. And so those farmers especially, there is help out there. There is helplines. It's okay to talk to your buddies, go out for a cup of coffee, sit down and just check in with each other and make sure everybody's okay.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too, because we have this idea in the West, we call it rugged individualism, and this fierce idea of independence, and that I have to do it all myself, and that's how I define myself. And I think we've missed the relationship of the word, because there's dependent, which we want to watch out for. There's independent, but then there's interdependent. And when we get to a mature point as a farmer, as an individual, we have to realize that we're interdependent on our community around us and that we need one another. Just like the guy who comes and picks up the load and does the driving and you do this, we all have different skill sets, different attributes. And as a community, we're actually interdependent. So when you get in struggle, Glenn Duggins just mentioned that in his article, with the chili that's going on in the state giving $5 million, that we're actually interdependent on one another, and we need to embrace that and explore the strength of being interdependent on one another. But we can't do that if we're believing and we're under the misbelief that we're independent individuals, and if I have to rely on someone else, I'm a failure. There's a difference between dependency and interdependency and self-reliance, and I think that's part of stomping out the stigma and exploring these type of things that we're doing in this dialogue that can help us redefine our definitions, definitions of what it means to be a success. Because we're in a rural environment. It's very difficult. We're up against global forces, from factory farming to remote workforce to a lot of policies and things that actually work against a rural community. But why are we here? Because it's a great place to live.
Exactly. It's beautiful out here. And we have that sense of community too. You've been talking about that sense of community. We're a small county, and everybody out here is just super friendly and really building up that sense of community and talking to your neighbors and talking to your friends. It both does a check-in to make sure they're okay, but just giving out that olive branch, building that sense of community is very important.
And that's so much a part of Socorro's history too. When we go back to the example of the Piro Indians, and the Spaniards, here's the Spaniards coming up, armor, horses, completely different, and they opened up their heart, their homes, they opened up their tables to them, and that's how we got the name Socorro, being there for someone else. And I know myself, there's a time that I was very independent and had a lot of things, and I remember one time, because I was pretty isolated, and I was on my motorcycle, and boy, I put 25,000 miles on one motorcycle, and most people didn't even see me. I was just gone. And there was a point when I got in a wreck, and it was actually a really good thing, because it broke down my individualism, it broke down my independency, and made me reliant on other people who offered me a meal, who offered me hope, who offered me a trip to the hospital, and it allowed them to give me something. And sometimes when we learn to open up, sometimes unfortunately we have to be broken like I was to realize that we need other people, and that as long as we don't abuse it, there's definitely an abuse of that. But when we allow other people to give us their gifts and what they have to bring to us, we can reciprocate, they can reciprocate, because as Saya Correa Hempel said on our show, when I do good for others, my brain grows as well as yours. So when we're kind and we have that ability to exchange, we both grow in the process, and it's a beautiful thing.
And that community grows too. It really makes for that healthy community. If we're all looking out for each other, it really makes a big difference. One of the services that we offer at the Health Council is called QPR, or Question, Persuade, Refer. The entire training that we offer is all about how to ask the question, are you suicidal? And studies have shown in communities that implement that Question, Persuade, Refer training, where you can ask somebody and prepare somebody for asking the question, are you suicidal? Tremendously, the mental health of the area goes up 100-fold, and it really increases those community ties to one another. It makes you realize that you're not just accountable for yourself, but you also have a job to look out for your neighbor and look out for your friends and family as well.
Yeah, boy, that's really important given this time of year, and again, because we see a rise in suicide around the holidays because there's so much pressure that you should be joyful, that you should be successful, and there's a lot of people that are really struggling at this time. And then you, as a person, like what Sam just said, when you're genuine there, you have to be really genuine about being there and listening and supporting, as has been taught to me. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. But really be there for a listener and make sure that they know that it's safe, that it's comfortable, that you're not there to judge them, and that it's okay to be broken, and it's okay to bring these things out, even in a holiday season where everybody's supposed to be joyful, because you can't help when things happen to you in life. You can't help the timing, that it happens on a birthday, that it happens on an anniversary, that it happens at Christmas. You can't help when those events happen, but you can cope with it better when you know that it's okay, that you don't have to be happy just because you're supposed to be happy.
Yep, it's okay to talk to someone. Holidays, like you said, are some of the worst times. Even before COVID, and then when you throw COVID into the mix, holidays are a really challenging time for everyone. Mental health and suicide rates are definitely up.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's okay not to be okay. Especially during the holidays. I know that holiday cheer sometimes can really get to people, especially if you happen to have lost loved ones during the holidays. Sometimes the holidays can be very hard time.
And the loved one can be a cat, dog, your
Exactly.
pet goat.
Yep.
Or your guitar in the case of Rob Lopez.
Exactly.
We love you, Rob. We love you. All right. So, let's see here. We're coming up on, we just come up on an hour. You want to take a little break for 15 minutes and then we can set this up and come back on again?
Yeah, sure. We'll let everybody go grab a cup of coffee and join us back here in about 15 minutes.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. Well, so we're doing the Stomp Out the Stigma. We want to mental up. We want to let you know that it's okay to have challenges in life. There's a lot of coping mechanisms and tools that are out there. SCOPE is part of that. We'll talk more about some of those resources when we come back, where you can get help at, that it's not a bad thing to ask for help. It's actually a sign of strength and bravery and courage when you can reach out for help. It's actually the opposite of what you're thinking or feeling, and that it's a really good thing to do for you, for your family, for your community, because I know people whose family members have committed suicide in these times, and the damage that it leaves behind, it doesn't relieve anyone. It really does a lot of damage. So, reach out and ask for help. It's the bravest thing you could do. It shows courage, and it shows strength to say, hey, I need somebody to listen to me. Yeah,
exactly. And then before we sign off too, just kind of a reminder to everyone, we are talking about some hard topics. If this triggers anything for anyone, there is help out there. There is a 1-800 hotline. It's 1-800-255-TALK. TALK. They are open and able to talk to anybody. It's a 24/7 call and text hotline. And so once again, that's 1-800-255-TALK.
1-800-255-TALK. And God knows if I know what those letters are anymore.
Yeah.
On the numbers. All right, Sam. Well, we're going to take a little break, folks. We're just right on an hour here. And we're going to come back and we're going to put together some resources. And we're going to talk about some resources that are available. But like Sam said, it is a tough topic. If it does trigger something into you, definitely reach out and call 1-800-255-TALK. Talk to somebody. And even if that's a friend or somebody there, don't hesitate in reaching out.
Yeah,
all right, Sam, we'll give them a break and we'll be back in 15.
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for watching us on Stomp Out the Stigma here on Rio Grande Valley Radio. We've got a 5K virtual run going on. Marathon or run?
Run.
We don't
do marathons. Marathons are too long.
Okay, good. Thanks for clearing that up with me. All right, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes with some more discussion about some of the resources available to help us stomp out the stigma and mental up here in Socorro County. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you.